Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So yet another Bud Light update. The CEO of Bud Light itself has finally spoken out, and basically he says, I hear you, or something to that effect. We'll get into it. And initially it was the VP of marketing who was blamed, Alicia Heinenscheid. She was put on leave or let go, we're not quite sure. And then there was another marketing executive who was also put on leave. The advertising agency themselves were blamed, the people responsible for the whole campaign, and the outside agency. And they're suffering right now. Their business is really not doing well because of all the backlash. But one thing that Kevin O'Leary pointed out is that it basically stops at the CEO. And he said, yeah, it's the CEO's fault. So US CEO of Bud Light maker tells customers, we hear you, after brand loses best-selling beer in America crown. The US CEO of Bud Light's owner, Anheuser-Busch, released a statement outlining steps the company is taking to alleviate backlash the brand has faced over the last 2 months since a single promotion with a transgender influencer. Over the last 2 months, the discussion surrounding our company and Bud Light has moved away from beer, and this has impacted our consumers, our business partners, and our employees, Brendan Whitworth wrote in a statement. To alleviate impacts Anheuser-Busch's employees and business partners have faced, Whitworth said the company will provide financial assistance to the beer brand's independent wholesalers and would support their employees. So the main thing they're trying to do is to make it right for the smaller businesses that rely on the brand that are now suffering. So, that's good in itself. Whitworth also directly addressed Bud Light's customers. We hear you. Our summer advertising launches next week, and we can look forward to Bud Light reinforcing what you've always loved about our brand, that it's easy to drink and easy to enjoy. So that just sounds like they're going to release more of these patriotic style commercials, perhaps, partnering with the likes of brands such as Harley-Davidson, perhaps. All of that so far has not worked. The statement follows months-long backlash the Bud Light brand has faced from some conservatives since it partnered with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney on a promotion that featured a custom Bud Light beer can featuring Mulvaney's face, which was given to Mulvaney but never sold in stores. And also, they were also boycotted by gay bars in Chicago and various businesses associated with LGBTQ. So it wasn't just conservatives, because they failed to pick a side, and they still have failed to pick a side. So the other side, because they didn't reaffirm Dylan, they also started boycotting them. So again, conservatives started it and conservatives will finish it, but it wasn't just conservatives, because yet, as we're still waiting, they haven't picked a side. So a decline in Bud Light sales has persisted. Earlier this week, the Bud Light beer brand ceded its title as the best-selling beer brand in the US to Modelo Especial beer, after the beer brand's sales dropped by 23% in May, according to data compiled by consumer behavior research firm Circana and shared with Insider. So they've lost their number one beer brand, which is huge. The chances of them getting it back are pretty slim. And we shall see what happens this summer. But again, because they have failed to pick a side, because they inserted themselves into the whole culture debate, people aren't buying it. People aren't going to really be taken with these promotions that they're doing. So we shall see. But another interesting point that came out about Bud Light this week was an insider claiming that the whole thing was planned from the very beginning. They planned it so that there would be a backlash and Bud Light would go in the direction it has gone. And this was something that came out initially when the boycott began. There were some marketing experts who were saying that it was all planned, it was all strategic, and it's working. Let's take a look.
What's happening with Bud Light right now is exactly what they planned. I'm Jess, I'm a marketer, and let me break it down for you. You guys all know what's going on with the Dylan Mulvaney controversy. Everyone is going crazy. There's all these reports that Anheuser-Busch or Bud Light or Budweiser are losing billions of dollars, and there's just this big backlash, and everyone is ready to see them file for bankruptcy, and none of that could be further from the truth. Having worked with brands that have the same portfolio and titles as Anheuser-Busch, I can guarantee you that before they even rolled out this campaign, they spent a good chunk of money bringing in marketing and advertising experts, and they spent a lot of money on risk analysis. I'll tell you exactly how I know this. Remember that Budweiser commercial that they recently released that was all about America, a very pro-America ad, and everyone speculated, oh, they're trying to backtrack and backpedal because of the Dylan Mulvaney controversy. But a few key points about that commercial were missed. For starters, that commercial was released about 10 days after the campaign with Dylan Mulvaney launched. On average, it takes about 3 to 4 weeks if you're hustling to make a commercial that is ready to air, which means they already had that in the can. No pun intended. But bigger than that, it wasn't a Bud Light commercial. It was a Budweiser commercial, which tells me something pretty key is happening, and they're doing a very intentional rebrand. They are positioning Bud Light towards the exact audience that is embracing the Dylan controversy.
So they're claiming that it was all intentional so that Gen Z would gravitate towards Bud Light and everyone else, the more traditional customers, would move on to Budweiser and their other brands. And in a way, that has been happening because people are starting to buy Michelob Ultra, Budweiser itself. More people are starting to use their other brands, not even realizing that they're part of, unless it's Budweiser, not even realizing that they're part of the whole Anheuser-Busch range of products. So Anheuser-Busch whistleblower alleges Dylan Mulvaney fiasco was planned. Bud Light's controversial partnership with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney could have been a strategic attempt to permanently alter the brand's audience, according to an anonymous former employee. Though the company's CEO insisted in a statement that it never intended to be part of a discussion that divides people, the ex-Anheuser-Busch worker suggested that the move was intentional. So this is what the employee said. Employees expressed the fact that they were shocked. Why would they do this? What were they thinking? Especially now. This is the worst. It's like the worst time yet. The best timing yet. If a company was trying to change the way it operates from a corporate level, and that's just my opinion. Many of us are talking about that like they planned it in a way, like a strategic destruction of Bud Light. The whistleblower stated on Tommy Lahren in Fearless that nobody's happy about the fall in sales and everybody considers the move a very bad idea. However, on the corporate level, he claimed that this could have been part of a strategy to undermine the American company. When the company was bought over by InBev, a lot of things changed from when it was owned by Anheuser-Busch. It's an American brand, the whistleblower remarked. He explained that the company previously offered many benefits prior to its purchase by InBev. Through the fall in sales for the Bud Light brand, the former employee stated the corporation could restructure both employee benefits and its company standards through layoffs and renegotiating contracts. Bud Light has been falling for many years. The numbers have just, little by little deteriorated. And it feels like they said, let's put this nail in the coffin. Wow, he said. Now we have a lot of layoffs, a lot of loss in production. It could be easy for them to restructure. Let's say, pay for contracts. It's too obvious that they wouldn't just mistakenly do this and not expect the repercussions. Anybody could tell you what was going to happen, he commented. Then they go on to finish, I'm angry at the company on the corporate level just because they had to have known that this was going to happen, and they let it happen, the whistleblower remarked, and he concluded, as for why, it's all just speculation, but from previous years, and the way they tried to take away the way the company is run from the past to now, it's not the same company it was when I started. I don't know, like they said, it's all speculation. There was the whole marketing perspective, that it was strategic to attract Gen Z to Bud Light, and to get everyone else to gravitate towards their other brands. And in a way, that has kind of worked. People have gravitated towards their other brands without even realizing it.
And they're gearing Budweiser towards the audience that is against the Dylan controversy. And for those of you who are saying, well, I don't care, it doesn't matter, Bud is Bud, let me give you some facts. Number one, consumers, as I've said before, rarely stick with boycotts. The human nature is just we are creatures of habit. Add on top of that the fact that big brands like Anheuser-Busch have multiple titles in their lineup. The fact of the matter is that their campaign with Dylan Mulvaney is far from the first time that they have included the LGBTQ community in one of the titles. And they are banking on the fact that, as mad as some people are about the Bud Light, they're still going to drink all their other titles because they either are not going to notice that they're Anheuser-Busch, or, like I said, they're going to go back to being creatures of habit and drinking their beer of choice. And to show you exact proof of that, do you remember the big performative thing that Kid Rock did where he shot up a bunch of Bud Light cans? Said he was going to pull Bud Light from all of his restaurants. He did, but he's still serving Budweiser and all of the other Anheuser-Busch titles. John Rich, who also postured all big about pulling the Bud Light from his restaurants, not only did he pull Bud Light from his restaurants, but he made a giant American flag. The Bud Light cans he still had were covered with stars to make up the stars of the flag. We are American here. We are not having Bud Light in my restaurants. We are covering them with Americana. But let's look closer at what that flag actually had. Oh, look at that. Uncovered Budweiser cans. Anheuser-Busch's stock valuation has been going up and down by several billion for a while now. And truly, we can't attribute it to Dylan's campaign, nor can we say it wasn't. It's actually too soon to tell either way. But at the end of the day, Anheuser-Busch did not become a multi-billion-dollar company without knowing exactly what they're doing. And I can almost guarantee you these billboards that were released today, whether they're actually up or not, were seeded on social media by Anheuser-Busch. Marketing and advertising does this stuff all the time. The memes and such that you think are viral that just happen to go viral on social media were absolutely planned by some of the best marketing and advertising brains in the world. Which is exactly why the statement that the CEO released about the Bud controversy was completely bland and didn't really say anything at all. He's not backpedaling. He's not doubling down. They just knew he had to release something, but they're still in the middle of this campaign. It is far from over, and I guarantee you, what is happening is exactly what they planned. You have to remember that marketing and advertising strategies are not just about planning for successes. It's also for purposely torpedoing things that you want to pivot, and so you plan for failure. It is part of your strategy. At the end of the day, Anheuser-Busch is doing what they do best, and that's evolving with the times so that they stay a relevant beer distributor. They see the writing on the wall, and as much as people say they don't know their demographic, to the contrary, they know their demographic very well, and they know that the older demographic is mainly drinking Budweiser, and it's the younger consumers who are consuming Bud Light. Therefore, if they want to stay relevant to new generations, as the generations grow up, they understand that they need to start being more progressive for Bud Light specifically, which is why we're going to see Budweiser stay exactly where it is when it comes to pro-Americana messaging. So yes, I think exactly what is happening with Bud Light is what they planned all along, and Budweiser is going nowhere, and Bud Light is going to start to be marketed towards the younger generation and the generation that is pro-Dylan.
But people have been doing their homework now and are boycotting the other brands too. But initially people were buying, Michelob Ultra and Corona, only to find out that they are, part of Anheuser-Busch too. And even Modelo Especial, people are saying, well, that's Anheuser-Busch. It isn't in America though. In America, it's owned by Constellation Brands. So I think the real issue is that the boycott has been sustained, whether it was a marketing ploy, to attract Gen Z, or whether it's to sabotage the company, I don't know. One thing I do believe is that they did not realize the boycott was going to last this long.
Number one, consumers, as I've said before, rarely stick with boycotts. The human nature is just we are creatures of habit.
Consumers, as I've said before, rarely stick with boycotts.
And therein lies the problem. And I think that's what's really destroying this brand. It's that the boycott has lasted for as long as it has, 2 months now, and it is continuing. It doesn't appear to be letting up either. People are doubling down, and it's just part of everyday life now, boycott Bud Light. And the brand itself has been tarnished. It is considered, pretty gay to be drinking the beer.
There you go. With everything going on Bud Light, you're still gonna drink that?
I'll tell you what, just because Bud Light supports transgender people and gays and stuff like that, it doesn't change the taste of the beer. It doesn't change anything. It hasn't changed me, and I've been drinking it for years. I broke a nail.
And that in itself is, you know, there's no coming back from that unless you completely rebrand the whole thing. It kind of seems that's what they want to do according to the statement that was released. So who knows? So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.